Hello, welcome to Oxford Heirlooms. This is an introduction to project number 32, which I'm calling Baby Bubbles, the Leslie View. This is going to be a bubble for a little boy. It's going to have a white collar with some scalloped insertion lace, some hand embroidery at 2 locations on the collar, and then some gathered 1-inch lace around the edge of it. The body of the bubble will be blue. It'll have some pleats coming down the front with 2 tabs with a button on each tab in front. The cuff will be a simple cuff with a little flat lace edging on there. Now the pattern that I'm using for this particular project, I'm using this pattern by Children's Corner. It's called Baby Bubbles. I'm afraid it's out of print, but I'm doing the Leslie View. But as you can see, it's got the pleats down the front and the 2 tabs with the buttons. But this one has a Peter Pan collar. And what I'm going to be using is I have drafted a portrait collar with outlines for my scalloped lace. My hand embroidery design is in there. And then the outer edge of the collar. Now what I can do, the collar that I have sketched out is in size 18 months, but you can redraft this to a different size if you want to. But if you will email me at oxfordheirlooms@gmail.com, I will be glad to send you a PDF of the collar pattern with the embroidery design and the scallop template to use. Okay. Materials list for this project. The materials list for this project includes 1 yard of blue Swiss batiste, and that's 60 inches wide. 1/2 yard of white Swiss batiste, that will be for the collar. 2 yards of 1-inch French edging lace. 1 yard or 2 yards of 1/2-inch French insertion lace. 1 yard of 1/2-inch French edging lace. You'll need about 1.5 yards of Swiss entredeaux. You'll need 2 11/16" white shank buttons. And if you don't know what a shank button is, it's got a shank on the bottom of it and it does not have holes on the top to sew the button down. And then 9 each of 3/8" pearl buttons. And these are just standard buttons that have the 2 little holes on the top of them. And the DMC floss I'll be using for my embroidery is Blanc, which is also known as white. Now I've got my materials sitting out here. I've got my white Swiss batiste and my blue Swiss batiste, and this is going to make a really pretty contrast for a little boy who's got blonde hair and blue eyes. It's going to look really sweet. Now my 1-inch lace is a Malines lace. So as I've mentioned before, Malines lace is one-sided. So I will have to be careful when I attach that to the collar. My insertion lace comes from the same lace family as my edging lace, and it is again Malines lace, so I'll have to be careful with making sure that it's on the right side. And my edging lace comes from a different Malines family, but it is Malines lace also. And then I have my entredeaux. I've got my white DMC floss. I've got my 9 3/8" pearl buttons, and the shank buttons, if you can see here, it's just a plain button on the front, and this particular one has a little metal shank attached to it. Okay, so once again, this is project number 32, which I'm calling Baby Bubbles. Is because I'm using the pattern by Children's Corner that's called Baby Bubbles, and I'm using the Leslie View. And once again, this is what the pattern looks like, and I'm sorry to say that it is out of print, but there's two different Bridget views that have some smocking on the front, but I'm doing the Leslie view with the tabs and the pleats. I'm just changing the collar and not doing a Peter Pan collar and doing a portrait collar instead. So I will put my materials list up as a slide at the end of the video. And once again, if you want the collar pattern with this scalloped lace template and the hand embroidery design, if you'll send an email to me at oxfordheirlooms@gmail.com and ask for the embroidery template for project number 32. You know, I've got quite a few projects going on now, so it makes it a lot easier for me if I know what project number you're referring to, because I can get that emailed back out to you really quickly. But in the next video, we'll start preparing the pattern pieces and getting ready to do the lace insertion on the collar. But thank you.